The neighborhood was quiet, but the kind of quiet that hides a storm. 8-year-old Tommy Bennett, with his gap-toothed grin and a heart bigger than his tiny frame, was about to turn the street upside down. Tommy lived on Maple Lane, a row of tidy houses where everyone knew everyone's business, and some liked it that way too much. It was the kind of place where lawns were mowed on schedule, and gossip spread faster than wildfire. Tommy, though, didn't care about any of that. He cared about his 9th birthday party, which he'd been planning for weeks with his mom, Sarah. Balloons, a piñata, and a cake shaped like a dinosaur. Tommy was set to make it the best day ever. But what made his eyes light up wasn't the cake or the games. It was the idea of inviting Mr. James. Mr. James was the sanitation worker who came by every Tuesday and Friday, heaving trash cans onto the truck with a quiet strength. He always waved at Tommy, sometimes tossing him a high five or a quick joke about dinosaurs, which Tommy loved. To Tommy, Mr. James was a friend, someone who made the street feel a little brighter. So, when Tommy slipped a bright blue invitation into Mr. James's hand one morning, his smile was as wide as the sky. "You gotta come to my party, Mr. James. It's gonna be awesome." Mr. James, whose real name was Marcus James, chuckled, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "I'll see what I can do, kid," he said, tucking the invitation into his pocket. What Tommy didn't know was that his small act of kindness was about to ignite a firestorm. Maple Lane wasn't as welcoming as it seemed, and some neighbors had opinions, ugly ones, about who belonged at a kid's birthday party. It started with whispers. Karen Mitchell, the self-appointed queen of Maple Lane, lived 3 houses down. She was the kind of woman who'd call a homeowners association meeting over an unmowed lawn or a mailbox painted the wrong shade of beige. Karen had seen Tommy hand Mr. James the invitation, and her lips had pursed so tight they nearly disappeared. By lunchtime, she'd rallied her usual posse: Linda from number 12, who nodded at everything Karen said, and Roger, the retired accountant who loved unionized labor. By evening, the whispers had turned into a full-blown campaign. Karen knocked on Sarah's door that same afternoon, her face a mask of polite disdain. "Sarah, dear," she began, her voice dripping with condescension, "I heard Tommy invited that man to his party. Don't you think it's a bit inappropriate?" Sarah, a single mom who worked long hours as a nurse, was caught off guard. She stammered, "Tommy really likes Mr. James. He's kind to him." Karen's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just saying it sends the wrong message. People might talk." Sarah, too tired to argue, mumbled something about it being Tommy's choice and closed the door, her stomach twisting. The next day, Karen's campaign escalated. She cornered other neighbors at the mailbox, her voice low but sharp. "A sanitation worker at a child's party? Really? And you know, his kind." The words hung heavy, unspoken assumptions festering like a wound. Linda nodded eagerly, while Roger muttered about keeping things proper. Soon, half the street was buzzing with judgment. Some parents called Sarah, politely declining the party invite, citing scheduling conflicts. Others didn't bother with excuses. By the time Tommy overheard Mrs. Larson at the grocery store saying, "It's just not right, inviting someone like that," his little heart sank. Tommy wasn't naive. He knew what someone like that meant. He'd heard kids at school whisper about Mr. James's skin color, seen the way some neighbors avoided eye contact when he passed. But to Tommy, Mr. James was the guy who knew dinosaur facts and always asked about his day. The unfairness of it burned in his chest. That night, he crawled into Sarah's lap, his voice small. "Why don't they want Mr. James at my party, Mom?" Sarah's throat tightened. She wanted to shield him from the ugliness, but he deserved the truth. "Some people judge others for silly reasons like how they look or what they do. But you were right to invite him, Tommy. He's your friend. The morning of the party arrived, bright and sunny, with balloons tied to the porch and the dinosaur cake gleaming on the kitchen counter. Tommy was bouncing with excitement, but Sarah noticed fewer cars pulling up than expected. Only a handful of kids showed up: Tommy's best friend, Mia, and a couple of others whose parents hadn't been swayed by Karen's whispers. Mr. James arrived right on time, wearing a clean button-up shirt instead of his uniform, a shy smile on his face as he handed Tommy a small, wrapped gift-to-plastic T-Rex model. Tommy's face lit up. "You came!" he shouted, dragging Mr. James to see the piñata. But the peace didn't last. Karen and her crew appeared at the edge of the yard, uninvited, their arms crossed and faces sour. Karen's voice cut through the laughter like a knife. "Sarah, we need to talk about this situation." She gestured toward Mr. James, who was helping Tommy pin the tail on a paper donkey. The other parents froze, the air thick with tension. Tommy's smile faded as he stepped closer to Mr. James, clutching his hand. Sarah squared her shoulders, stepping forward. "This is my son's party, Karen. If you don't like it, you're free to leave." Karen's eyes narrowed. "It's not about liking it. It's about what's appropriate. He's not one of us." The words landed like a slap, and Mr. James stiffened, his jaw tight. Tommy's face flushed red, his small fists clenched. "Mr. James is my friend," he shouted, his voice cracking. "You're just mean." The yard went silent. Karen blinked, unaccustomed to being challenged, especially by a child. Linda shifted uncomfortably, and Roger coughed, looking away. But Karen wasn't done. She stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "You don't understand, Tommy. People like him don't belong here." The words were a spark to dry grass. Tommy's eyes welled up, and Mr. James knelt beside him, his voice steady but heavy with hurt. "It's okay, Tommy. I can go."
"No."
Tommy's shout was raw, desperate. He grabbed Mr. James's arm, pulling him back. "You're staying. It's my party." The other kids, sensing the tension, gathered behind Tommy, Mia glaring at Karen like she was ready to fight. Sarah's hands shook as she faced Karen. "Get off my property. Now." Karen smirked, undeterred. "You're making a mistake, Sarah. This'll be all over town by tomorrow." She turned, her posse trailing her, but not before knocking over a trash can by the curb, spilling garbage across the lawn. A petty, deliberate jab. The sight of the scattered trash, a cruel echo of Mr. James's job, made Sarah's blood boil. Mr. James stared at the mess, his expression unreadable, but his shoulders sagged. The party continued, but the joy was strained. Tommy stuck close to Mr. James, showing him every game, every decoration, as if to prove nothing had changed. But something had. The neighborhood's ugliness had spilled into the open, and Tommy's innocence had taken a hit. Sarah watched her son, her heart aching, knowing this was only the beginning. That evening, Sarah couldn't sleep. The image of Tommy's defiant stand, Mr. James's quiet dignity, and Karen's smug face burned in her mind. She opened her laptop, her fingers trembling as she typed. She poured out the story: Tommy's kindness, Mr. James's warmth, and the neighbor's cruelty into a post on the town's online forum. She included a photo of Tommy and Mr. James laughing over the cake, the spilled trash cans in the background. "This is my son's heart," she wrote, "and this is what hate looks like. Choose better." She hit post, not expecting much. By morning, the post had exploded. Shares, comments, likes, hundreds, then thousands. People from neighboring towns chimed in, praising Tommy's kindness, condemning Karen's actions. A local news outlet picked up the story, then another. By noon, a reporter was at Sarah's door, asking for an interview. Tommy, shy but proud, told the camera, "Mr. James is my friend. I don't care what anyone says." Mr. James, standing beside him, said little, but his eyes shone with gratitude. Karen's world unraveled faster than she could have imagined. The spilled trash cans, captured in Sarah's photo, became a symbol of her pettiness. Her social media was flooded with criticism. Neighbors, strangers, even her own cousin called her out. Her landscaping business, built on her perfect reputation, started losing clients. By the end of the week, she disabled her accounts, her name synonymous with shame. Linda and Roger, caught in the backlash, kept their heads down, their influence crumbling. But the real change was quieter, deeper. Mr. James started getting waves from neighbors who'd never acknowledged him before. Kids on the street asked him about dinosaurs, copying Tommy. Sarah's post didn't just go viral, it sparked conversations in living rooms, classrooms, even churches. Tommy's party, meant to be a simple celebration, became a lesson in courage, a reminder that kindness could outshine hate. And for Tommy, who still kept that T-Rex model on his shelf, it was the day he learned his heart could change the world. The days following Tommy's birthday party were a whirlwind. Sarah's post on the town forum didn't just rip, light surged, sweeping across social media platforms like a tidal wave. By Monday morning, the story had reached beyond the small town of Willow Creek, touching hearts in cities and suburbs far beyond Maple Lane. Hashtags like Tommy's Party and Kindness Wins trended on X, with users sharing their own stories of standing up to prejudice or celebrating small acts of inclusion. A national news network reached out, wanting to feature Tommy and Mr. James in a segment about community heroes. Sarah hesitated, worried about the spotlight on her shy son, but Tommy was adamant. "I want people to know Mr. James is awesome," he said, clutching the T-Rex model Mr. James had given him. Sarah relented, and the interview was scheduled for the following weekend. Meanwhile, Karen Mitchell's life was unraveling faster than a cheap sweater. Her landscaping business, once the pride of Willow Creek, was hemorrhaging clients. Longtime customers canceled contracts, citing her behavior at the party. A scathing review on a local business page, accompanied by a screenshot of the spilled trash cans, racked up hundreds of upvotes. "Karen Mitchell trashes more than lawns," one commenter wrote, and the phrase stuck, becoming a bitter meme that followed her online. Karen tried to fight back, posting a half-hearted apology on her business page, claiming she'd been misunderstood, but the damage was done. The apology was picked apart, called insincere, and her inbox filled with messages ranging from polite criticism to outright condemnation. By midweek, she'd shut down her social media accounts entirely, retreating into a self-imposed exile. Linda and Roger, Karen's loyal followers, weren't spared either. Linda's book club, a weekly gathering of Maple Lane's gossip elite, saw attendance dwindle as members distanced themselves. Roger, who'd always prided himself on his neutral stance, found his accounting services quietly dropped by several neighbors. The spilled trash cans, a petty act of spite, had become a visual indictment of their complicity. The image, shared thousands of times, showed not just Karen's cruelty, but the silent agreement of those who stood by her. Willow Creek was a small town, and shame traveled fast. But the story wasn't just about Karen's downfall. It was about what grew in its place. Mr. James, whose full name was Marcus James, became an unlikely local celebrity. Neighbors who'd once ignored him now stopped to chat when he drove the sanitation truck down Maple Lane. Kids, inspired by Tommy, ran out to wave, some even asking him about dinosaurs, mimicking Tommy's enthusiasm. One morning, a shy teenager from across the street handed Marcus a homemade card that read, "Thanks for being cool, Marcus," a man of few words, tucked it into his pocket, his stoic face softening just a fraction. Tommy, meanwhile, was grappling with his new reality. The attention was overwhelming. Classmates high-fived him at school. Teachers praised his courage, and strangers sent him letters calling him a hero. But Tommy didn't feel like a hero. He felt confused. "I just wanted Mr. James at my party," he told Sarah one night, his brow furrowed. "Why's everyone making it such a big deal?" Sarah hugged him tightly, struggling to explain the world's complexities to a boy who saw things so simply. "Because you did something brave, Tommy. You showed people what's right, even when it was hard." The national news interview brought the story to a new level. The crew arrived on Saturday, setting up cameras in Sarah's modest living room. Tommy, dressed in his favorite dinosaur t-shirt, sat next to Marcus, who looked slightly uncomfortable in the spotlight but wore a warm smile for Tommy's sake. The reporter, a kind woman named Lisa, asked gentle questions, letting Tommy tell the story in his own words. "Mr. James is my friend," he said, his voice clear and earnest. "He knows about T-Rexes and always waves at me. I didn't want him to feel left out." Marcus added quietly, "Tommy's a good kid. He sees people for who they are." The segment aired the next evening, and by Monday it had millions of views online. Comments poured in, calling Tommy an inspiration and Marcus a role model. Some shared their own experiences with prejudice, while others pledged to teach their kids about kindness. But not everyone was moved. A small but vocal group online pushed back, echoing Karen's sentiments in uglier terms. Anonymous accounts on X posted hateful comments, claiming Marcus didn't belong at a child's party, that Sarah was stirring trouble for attention. One particularly vicious post called Tommy a pawn in a woke agenda. Sarah shielded Tommy from these, but she read them late at night, her heart heavy. Marcus, too, saw the comments but brushed them off with a weary shrug. "I've heard worse," he told Sarah over coffee one morning. "What matters is Tommy. He's got a good heart." The backlash only fueled Sarah's resolve. She started a blog, Maple Lane Moments, to share stories of kindness and challenge prejudice in small ways. She wrote about Tommy's friendship with Marcus, about the neighbors who'd stepped up, and about the quiet courage it took to stand against hate. The blog gained a modest following, and Sarah found herself connecting with people across the country, parents, teachers, even other sanitation workers who shared their own stories of being overlooked or judged. One post, titled "The Trash Can Lesson," went viral, detailing how Karen's spilled garbage had become a symbol of her own smallness. "Hate leaves a mess," Sarah wrote. "Kindness cleans it up." In Willow Creek, change came slowly but steadily. The Homeowners Association, once Karen's personal fiefdom, elected a new president, a young father who'd been at Tommy's party and cheered his defiance. The group passed a resolution to promote inclusivity, a small gesture but a start. Some neighbors, shamed by their silence during the party, reached out to Marcus directly. One, an elderly woman named Mrs. Carter, invited him for tea, apologizing for never speaking to him before. "I was wrong," she said simply, her hands trembling around her teacup. Marcus nodded, accepting her apology with the same quiet dignity he'd shown at the party. Tommy's school got involved, too. His teacher, Ms. Rivera, used the story as a springboard for a class project on kindness. Each student wrote about someone who'd made a difference in their life, and Tommy's essay about Marcus won a district-wide contest. The prize was a trip to a nearby dinosaur museum, and Tommy insisted Marcus come along. The sight of them wandering the exhibits, Tommy pointing excitedly at a Triceratops skeleton while Marcus nodded sagely, became another viral photo, shared with captions like, "Friendship knows no barriers." Karen, meanwhile, was a ghost in her own neighborhood. Her house, once a hub of activity, was quiet, the curtains drawn. Rumors swirled that she was planning to move, unable to face the daily reminders of her fall. Linda tried to stay loyal, stopping by with casseroles, but even she couldn't deny the shift in the air. Roger, ever the pragmatist, cut ties entirely, claiming he'd never agreed with Karen's stance. The truth was, Maple Lane was changing, and those who clung to old prejudices were being left behind. For Marcus, the attention was a double-edged sword. He appreciated the support, the new friendliness from neighbors, but he didn't want to be a symbol. "I'm just a guy doing my job," he told Sarah one day, helping her clean up the yard after another trash pickup. But Sarah saw the impact he'd had. "You're more than that to Tommy," she said, "and to a lot of people now." Marcus smiled, a rare, full smile, and went back to work. As weeks turned to months, Tommy's party became a touchstone for Willow Creek. The spilled trash cans, once a mark of shame, were replaced with a community cleanup day, organized by Sarah and Ms. Rivera. Neighbors, including some who'd stayed silent during the party, showed up to sweep streets and plant flowers, Marcus at the center, directing kids with a grin. The event ended with a barbecue, where Tommy and Marcus manned the grill, laughing as they flipped burgers. The wooden fence by Sarah's house now bore a permanent sign, painted by Tommy, "Kindness goes viral." It became a local landmark, photographed by visitors and shared online. The story of Tommy and Marcus didn't erase prejudice from Willow Creek or the world beyond. Hateful comments still lingered in dark corners of the internet, and some neighbors still whispered behind closed doors. But it planted a seed. It showed that a child's heart, unclouded by bias, could spark change. It proved that one small act inviting a friend to a party could ripple outward, challenging cruelty and uplifting those who'd been pushed down. What do you think? Can a single act of kindness overcome a community's divides? Or does justice require louder voices? Share your thoughts on where right and wrong collide in stories like these.